Self-Enveloped Darkness 3 was filmed about 6 months after the first two parts. It gives you a little more context to the whole situation and includes perspective from both me and Sarah in the time since filming the first interviews.
Christian told me yesterday he's going to kill himself on December 31st of this year. He doesn't want to die, but he made this promise to himself that he will do it because there is a greater power telling him he needs to. WTF. He told me that I, of all people, should understand him because I know him best. I understand where his logic could get to that, but I also told him that he is sick and pathetic. I wasn't angry, just super sad. I cried for an hour. Fell asleep for part of it, but then his parents came home and opened the door and I was sitting there crying. They asked if everything was okay. I didn't answer. Christian told me not to act like a nut. I slapped him pretty hard across the face. Said he doesn't get to say that and ran to the basement. He followed me there and sat with me while I cried. He's so serious about this. He said this is his calling and it will hopefully have a great impact on people when they learn he committed suicide because a greater power showed him it was his meaning in life. It's been nothing but pain and heartbreak. He just texted me he loves me. How do you want to kill yourself if you love someone?
That's like so much more intense than anything we have on the video.
Yeah, that's a lot more intense.
Because I lived it.
Perspective.
The first thought going through my head is I have a master's degree in social work. Living through it is so different. I understand where he's coming from, the whole role that the greater power played in his thoughts of wanting to commit suicide. I understand that. But being on the flip side of that is how can you kill yourself if you still have ties to the earth? That's still something that's hard for me to understand, but when you realize that it's not coming from that person, it's just like an ingrained part in their mind that it takes sometimes even years to overcome.
What kept you there?
I still don't know. I really do think it was our love that got us through. He told me if you can get through all this crap at the beginning, we're gonna have the best relationship ever. That helped me through a lot, just my commitment and the love that I felt for him and not wanting to give up.
Do you feel like you saved his life?
I don't know if I would go that far. I feel like it would be a pretty pompous idea to be like, oh yeah, I saved his life.
Can you talk a little bit about just like what the experience was from him being admitted in the hospital?
Seeing him there, he's in his little gown, he doesn't have socks on, he's not himself, and he was just super medicated.
Was he emotionless?
Yeah, like goofy.
Still goofy stuff?
Like a little bit, but like so much of him was dead. Once you get involved in psychotropic medications, it eliminates all feelings, even the good ones.
Right.
You can't bring anything into the hospital. You try to bring a pink unicorn.
We still have it, but I couldn't get it until after I got out.
How are you now?
And I think it was interesting because I wasn't like suicidal back then, but I was not in a good place. I was very scattered. So for a whole year, at least after the whole suicide hospital and everything, life was just such a wild time. I got fired from 6 jobs in a row.
Jesus.
That semester ends, the semester where we recorded that video, and I went and got a variety of jobs that I could pick up. And yeah, I just kept getting fired. And what's funny is that I think a lot of the reasons I got fired were just because like I was still so like different and just like so like anti-authority. I would do small things, piss someone off over and over again, and it like kept getting me fired at every single job I was at.
Why did you do it?
I'm just like, what? I don't care about the establishment that you guys enslave yourselves to, which is fine. Listen to your managers. That's what I learned later on, and now I get to have a job for forever probably because I do a good job and don't smoke pot. Well, at one of those jobs that I had, this is like the next chapter of me learning a lot of what I learned in 7th grade, which is how I kind of interact with really masculine male forces. So we're in this place, just the most gruff job, full of felons. They were like they weren't gonna kill me or anything. I got flight threatened with me once, but they weren't gonna do anything. I was the feminine guy there. Like I was like,
were you made fun
I was
of?
a dweeb. You see that people don't respect you, and if the whole factory doesn't respect you, it feels a lot like 7th grade. It was a rehashing of
everything.
So much of my trauma. I was trying to be humble in the last video. I definitely didn't feel strong.
Do you feel stronger now?
Yeah, well, just because I'm doing more. Like I'm posting so much on Instagram. Hey, follow me. So much with my music. I didn't like men back then. If you want to go and draw some weird narratives about how being bullied in 7th grade led to queerness, whatever. It's your business, buddy. But I will say that I obviously had some qualities back then that made them pick me out. Even if you have like innocent qualities, if you're not with it, especially with other men, like you'll get like your throat ripped out. You have to learn to shut up. And then I wanted to say, the thing that I said they accused me of did not happen. I still want to message the guy on Facebook whom it was like centered around, who they said I took a picture of. Whatever, 7 years ago or more. The social world is so weird back then that there was a kid who wasn't like that popular. His way to like become one with the popular kids was to do something bad to one of the non-popular. That sounds insane, but literally a week or two later. So the really popular kid says in the locker room, Jim, you're not sitting at our table anymore. Hey Randy, you can sit at our lunch table tomorrow.
Wow.
It was like a gang initiation. That was his task, and it worked to make him one with the popular kids. I really do think it exists a lot more than you see. What bothers me so much about 7th grade is that there's a whole bunch of people who still think that I did this like super effed up thing.
Still?
I'm sure there's gotta be.
10 years down the road?
I didn't get to everyone, and to everyone else it was just a fact. Things got better after 7th grade. I got prom king. I did. Like, I had a lot of people who liked me a lot, and probably a lot of people who still hated me. But high school went better for me later on. It's never a nail in your coffin unless you actually kill yourself. Brings us full circle to this video, because I mean, what I've learned is that when you fight through it, literally every single hardest thing that you went to, the things that you were so sure wouldn't benefit you, are always the things that benefit you the most in the end. As long as you stay alive and just keep existing, eventually, years down the line even, it ends up being like your best tool. It's like the hardest thing you went through. Most recently, I parked my car in front of a neighbor's driveway, my parents' like neighborhood, just because I was totally out of it. I hadn't slept for 2 days. The neighbors called the police. The police somehow get my parents' number. So the police called my parents, and my parents called us. We were like 5 minutes down the road. And I cannot tell you how insanely relieved I was when we pull up and the cop is, she's like a woman in her 40s. It's not scary anymore. I mean, I've had cops screaming at me. I've had them check me when they had no business checking my pockets. You might want to say to everyone, just comply. But whenever a big, strong man is there taking like all your dignity and all your liberty away, it's another human interaction where you're expecting everyone to act like robots, and people in like positions of power over you acted unjustly towards you. But yeah, I'll leave that behind at how masculine forces, how men in my life interacted with me, definitely contributed into making me the small person who was eventually someone who wanted to kill themselves. And that's very important. And I think that in the next few years, people are going to really see how important forces like that are. And whenever you have a mind like this, that a lot of people have, that's always troubling and always thinking too much, you need to have a really good ability to think on your own. A lot of the time that I spend that's the best for me, like mental health wise, is alone now. The time I spend alone is actually a good time now. I go back to what I said earlier, that the hardest things you go through, they're going to become your tools. I do want to say, talking directly to the audience, I have learned a lot, and there's a lot that I'm super proud of. And I'm just now being able to be proud of that as like it's starting to pay me back. Like I did say I'm like working so much harder and I'm so much happier and I'm just so much stronger, man. All this goes to God. Everything that I've found over the past few months, every bit of goodness, every bit of improvement, it all goes to God. I learned that because going to other people who love me was the best thing I can do. And that's a very holy, that's something that God would ask you to do. Yeah. Focusing on my family, focusing on this woman who loves me more than anyone ever should. Just like this angel that I have. And even texting me Andrew about wanting to do this video. Just connecting with people. Try following God if you haven't yet, and I promise that you'll see a lot of your issues sort of dissipate. Hi guys, thank you for watching Self-Enveloped Darkness. I'm very glad that Andrew got a hold of me to come work on this project, and I hope that this project does a lot to help remedy the issues of mental health that we see in this society.